right, well, let's dive in. We're actually starting with, I think, somewhat sad news for both you and I, maybe for slightly different reasons, but news, I guess, is breaking. I mean, I don't know. This isn't. They're early talks right now, but the talks are of both Broadcom and TSMC, Taiwan chip. I forgot the time. What is it?
Semiconductor
Semiconductor.
manufacturing, yeah.
Um, Basically both exploring deals to potentially buy parts of Intel, which of course means the potential breakup of Intel, which, we've talked about them having lots of issues. And I'm not saying it's not the right thing to do given everything and where they're at, but it's just sort of sad. I mean, this is one of those examples of a company that everyone, probably myself included, felt like was indomitable, would always be there, and
Hmm.
now under very legitimate threat of no longer existing as we knew it, if at all. And so, sort of sad news.
Yeah, for most of my career, Intel has been seen as the absolute epitome of supply chain and manufacturing expertise. They have forgotten more than almost every other company has ever known. And now Intel has is dealing with the fruits, I guess you could say, of its mistakes made over the past decades where it failed to get into mobile and missed the AI turn, and it got outflanked by the likes of TSMC as well as Nvidia, as well as just name all the chip companies, unfortunately. And now we're seeing both Broadcom and TSM making real bids to figure out if they can take pieces of Intel's factories. And of course, they have to talk to the Trump administration about this because obviously we are not going to let US chip making capabilities fall into foreign hands. So this is actually kind of it's kind of tricky that all the best chip makers are overseas and want to bail out Intel, but how are they going to do it while maintaining a US based company?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a challenge. I do think it is I'm not sure national security, but I mean, definitely a national concern. I think clearly technology, AI in general, is a key part of our national competitiveness. And so I think there are definitely some legitimate concerns about it, but the difficulty is Stargate and what have you, and the CHIPS Act aside, it's very difficult. It takes an enormous amount of money. I mean, at the end of the day, the reason Intel's in this challenge is that unlike, say, a software company, unlike when Microsoft went through this, while they had all of the challenges of changing a very large organization and dealing with cultural change, they didn't have the issue of having to deal with physical plant. And that's, Intel's biggest challenge is it's been very, very difficult to pivot. I mean, these are very big long-term bets, and if you miss them, which they did twice,
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard to recover from that, from just the amount of physical investment. And so that's, I think, the thing that's going to make this whole thing tricky on both sides. But in either case, I mean, whichever way that plays out, I think, I think, putting my CIO hat, I'm not sure that there's any dramatic impact to me if I'm looking at it from if I was sitting as CIO today. But it's still one of these things that's sort of sad, and I think also speaks to just the rate of change and the fact that we used to have these sort of handful of stalwarts that we sort of knew anchored us. We may have all this turmoil going on, but we had these sort of anchors, and I think we're increasingly finding those anchors have been ripped from the seafloor, and we're all sort of adrift and have to figure it out. So
Yeah,
we'll
my
see.
yeah, from the CIO perspective, I think my biggest concern here is what happens if Intel, chip manufacturing capabilities do get sold off? What kind of chips will we be making? And then in call it worst case scenario or worst case scenario, what if free trade is further restricted and we have trouble accessing Taiwanese chips for whatever reason? It's definitely a possibility with this administration. Definitely, there have been talks about it. So trying to figure out basically and then figuring out what chips will be allowed to be made on the Intel manufacturing, the Intel factories, the chip manufacturing plant equipment, and how long will it take to get there. I think roadmaps will get switched significantly, possibly for the better, but then again, we're talking about 3 to 5 years to be able to do any of that
And
anyways
I mean, and
in-house.
this is, I think, the point is if you're a CIO, so much of your exposure to the chip level has been abstracted away between cloud
Mhm.
and other services. I think, and that's what I'm saying. It's sort of less of an issue today than it would have been even 5 years ago. But